it up for Debs and I'll bring up the Preston.
I don't know if I'm making it right now. Right, I'm going to just start because I think probably the best starting out about how I got involved with Phoenix and the Climate Emergency Centre Network. So like back when COVID was first starting up and I'd just come out of fighting the fracking thing down at Preston New Road and it was all a bit bored and didn't know what else to do, and my friend went, "Hey, I'll have a read of this book." And I read it and I'm like, oh, Preston needs one of these. Because it's about what I'm about. I'm about socialism and I'm about climate and environmentalism. So I think the Climate Emergency Centres brings the two together because I think we're all aware that the social issues are related to the climate issues and vice versa. So anyway, I went down to Wilford, I think it was Wilford, right? I went down to Wilford and seen what I was doing down there. And then I come back up and I went to people like Gaynor and I was like, come on up and go to the centre. So I like got in touch with the council and I wrote out a business plan and I sent it off to the local council and lots of different people. And so these are just some of the groups who we've been like cooperating with, working with, so space generators. They helped us negotiate the space, as you know, the Climate Emergency Centre Network, which is Phoenix's baby, and we have a meeting every Wednesday at 7 o'clock where all the groups come together and we share and support each other. As I say, I'm working with Preston City Council, Practically Lancashire and Climate Action Preston, and the Nanas come along but not me out sometimes. So this is just basically nick this off Phoenix. I went on Facebook site and nicked it. So this is just what like climate emergency centres are about really, like the people's response, about how we can come together and build the solutions, because as we all know, we're on our own. We've got to do this on our own because no one's going to come and help us. So yeah, so the new space generators, as Phoenix said, they help negotiate these empty spaces. And I think Phoenix once said it's better if you can get a building when you can go in and just sweep it and you're ready to go. Because Jamie knows we were looking at the windmill, the T4, and I don't know if Manchester's like Preston, but there's that many empty buildings, but they're not. You can't go in and use them because it's asbestos and all other issues. Anyway, so we got this space, and then we got some furniture donated from the university, so many pictures were a bit blurred, and we had a open day event, and we got a local artist to come and draw some designs on the window, and yeah, it was a nice little opening event. And so since opening on the 13th of August, which isn't that long ago really, we've had quite a few different events, and they include like we had a pickle making workshop, so some of the yeah, don't get yourself in a pickle. But it was about like how you get like food, leftover food, vegetables, surplus veg from your local allotments and supermarkets and that, and then how you can pickle them. So that's like a way to store your food. We have it going off, and we've got a group of the refugee ladies who now live in Preston, and they come and help us learn and ferment, which is a different way of pickling, which is quite interesting. And we also had the zero waste workshop. That was quite good. We got a lady from the council to come, and she explained like how you can not recycle, because we can't recycle anymore. We've got to reuse and reduce what we have, and repurpose bits what we have. But if it was going to throw away, repurpose it. And then we also had a children's story time. So we got a couple from Blackpool came, and they dressed up as pirates, and then they told the children stories about plastic in the oceans and things like that, so that was quite good. And then me and Game did a choir. It was a choir. It was quite good actually, because it brought all back different people from the community, and we sang. And we've got the smoothie bike, and the guy from Aldi, because Aldi donated some fruit for us for a smoothie bike, which is quite good. It's quite a good gimmick, that smoothie bike, isn't it? To get people when kids love it, adults love it too. In there, we have John and John. So one John plays a tuba, and the other John plays his drums, and he also leads the kind of the choir. And both of them have like built their own cargo bike, so that they can carry their instruments around from venue to venue. It's actually quite a good talk. John with his tuba, he goes all over the world on that cargo bike. So these are just little solutions that we can all get involved in. We had a movie night, so a Native American lady, she's the director of the film, she came over and it was explaining how big oil and gas take the indigenous people's lands, which is not very nice, and we've got another similar evening coming up soon. And these are just some future events, what we've got organised. So we've got an anti-fracking solidarity day coming up, we've got a food resilience workshop, another movie night, we've got the Girl Guides if asked if they can come and use the space. We've got UCLan, and we're hoping to have like plastic-free, vegan, vegetarian Christmas market if our lease rolls over in December. And then, yeah, Preston community get ready and we can do a floor share. And another bit, I think what the Climate Emergency Centre's what we aim to do for winter is open our spaces up to the warm so people can come and get a bit of soup and keep warm, get some warm clothing.
What's UCLan?
That's the University of Central Lancashire, sorry. So it's the University of Preston, but it's Lancashire's University. So this is like there's often times like the Climate Emergency Centre during the week when there's not many events on, it can be quite quiet, but then there's people now, they started coming in and the regulars, so they just come in and have a cup of tea and you can make a friend and stop them being lonely and things like that. As we all know, loneliness is quite a big killer in this country. And the Climate Emergency Centre is coming to a place that people can rely on being open, and so they've got a friendly safe space to come and visit, and there's not an emphasis on actually buying something and having to spend money when you go there. During the cold winter months, we're intending, as I said, to open our space up to everyone as a place where they can come, get warm, have some soup, put on some nice clean warm clothing as getting in us, and probably same in Manchester, we've got a big homeless problem, and I think it's getting bigger. It's like awful, and so I'm hoping we can help some of our people because they can't afford to go and sit and pay like 4 or 5 quid for a cup of coffee and a cup of tea, so can come in and look, just making very food nothing. I think that's it. I'll open it up now. Questions?
Brilliant. So, any questions, folks?
I just want to know, have you got any of the handbooks here with you or not? And the other thing I want to know is, would a CLT be an appropriate legal entity?
Yes, I've got 3 or 4 handbooks with me. They're just homebound. Everything we do is generally free sliding scale, so you can have it free or £5 unwaged, £10 waged, or whatever you want to donate. But you can tell I'm not commercial. But yeah, I've got a few. I have a couple of me. Community Land Trust. Could a community land trust? There is the iFarm project, which is one of the first in Norfolk. It's a land climate emergency centre. They are a community land trust. They bought 10 acres of land in Norfolk, and they're doing agriculture, and there's a few people staying there and doing things. And they've also set up a community benefit society, I think, and bought the local pub as a community resource. So community land trust could definitely link in. Whether a community land trust can get money off the business rates, I'm not sure. We've checked them. I think there's 2 elements to getting the business rates off on a building, and one is if the group is not for profit, so if it's a charity or a not for profit company, or it's a co-op with some kind of not for profit owned as well. But the other part is the relationship you build with the council business rates department, and showing that you are doing some social good. So I suppose if a community land trust built a relationship with the local council and the valuation department said, look, we want to take over this old factory and these 10 acres of land. Will you give the money off the business rates if, you know, something for a while, we can use it? And then in the long term, we would like to see groups raising money from the short term, meanwhile buildings, to actually getting buildings for the long term in the future. So, lady here.
I just want to say community interest isn't a legal entity in its own right. You're right, you have to start community benefit societies as well, isn't it? But I also want to say, I think Deb's done an amazing job at Preston, which is really, really hard and continues to do so. She's very, very inspirational.
Very inspirational. I didn't see who was first on the draw there. So 1, 2, 3, self-organised yourself. 1, 2, 3.
Just very quick, on my council, the council leader actually has the power to deliver special business rate relief, so that's the relationship may need to be with, not just the council rate department.
Cool, yeah, talk to them.
That is the cooperative council leader and so on and so forth.
Yeah, building relation. One thing that one of the older trustees of Space Generator is a charity. We help groups negotiate lease and one thing she said, it's about building relationships and build a relationship with the council, with the developer, keep bringing them, get friendly, see how you can all help each other. Yeah, need as well.
A couple of sort of comments and then a question. Regarding the legal structure, you do talk about community benefit societies in your setting up guide. But in terms of the rates, if you become a charitable community benefit society, you get the same rate relief as a charity does. So I'm just interested to know, I suppose, how many of your centres have actually taken that route, because I think I spoke to the Swindon group, I've advised co-ops, and they chose to become a charity, I think, in the end, because they thought that was easier for the council, whereas actually, in terms of that networking and that engagement, actually Community Benefit Society has it at the heart, and I just wondered whether there were sort of wider conversations along those lines. And I suppose my question is about longevity. I mean, obviously you're being, and who knows what's happening with the current economic climate. We may have many more empty buildings. But in terms of how often have groups had to move on, or are they feeling relatively secure in the premises that they're in? Just that sort of longevity question, really.
Very good couple of questions. So just to try and feedback on them. It's an evolving handbook, it's an evolving network. We all learn from each other. We are working out this system and this process. This is a citizens' communities initiative, and we are working out how councils work and run. We're working out how business rates departments work and run. And sometimes it's a bit of a mystery maze to work your way through. You have to ring what we've been advising groups. The two main routes we know well and are well trodden better are a not-for-profit company or a charity. One of the original learning loans was a not-for-profit gets 40% of the business rates automatically, a charity automatically gets 80% of the business rates, and either can apply for up to 100% with the discretionary business rates. A community interest company, some councils don't recognise them, some do. You have to have a conversation with the valuation department and say, do you recognise this? Community benefit societies, I know about, but we need to know more about. There is mention in the handbook, we need to expand that. If there's a charitable community benefit society, then I think that's definitely something we should write more about, feed any information in, and we'll update it to people. So let's find out more about community benefit society and community land trusts and cooperatives using this model, and push the cooperative model, you know. And then on longevity, most groups seem to get about 1 year to 2 year meanwhile lease. Meanwhile leases means you're looking after it in the meanwhile till they develop it into something. Some of these buildings sit empty for 7 years. I know of groups that have got 4 and 5 year meanwhile leases, and sometimes it can be as short as 6 months. You as a group have to work out how much work needs to be done before you go in. If it's a sweep and go clean place in the high street, you're not going to go in for 6 months and come out. But the idea is to build up an infrastructure of a number of buildings, and you need your next building before the first one closes. But hopefully get a minimum of a year. I think Guildford, Swindon, they've got a couple of year leases or something.
Okay.
How, was there a question on
I
that?
think we sort out answer some of the things Joe was saying. But I suppose as an aside to Debs, how hard did you find it? You know, you were involved with Bradbury, Lancashire, and the Nanas. How easy or how, I say different, but you know, the transition between that coming through thankfully back then and then coming into the CEC in Preston, how difficult was it to get set up with the new group in Preston?
I think it took us about, did it take us about 18 months? I want to say it took us quite a while to get going and that, but I think the transition was easy because the fracking campaign at the time had finished, so that was in our brains had come to an end, so we could all sit back and retire, and my brain were like looking for a new outlet, and the climate emergency centres was it, and I think because I'm a Capricorn I'm a bit stubborn. Yeah.
Keep going. It is a process and it does take time. And we do find also that teams form, and if they don't get building after a year and a quarter, then hope goes down a little bit, energy dissipates a bit. So, but then, groups like Kingston after a year and a half now have got their building, and they're very happy and re-energise again and get more people involved. But you've just got to keep working at it and build up those relationships and hopefully get an alliance of different groups working together.
Just a couple of quick comments and a question, very briefly, following Joe's lead. I'm Chief Lake Spinner at a community co-op, and we've got 100% business rate relief. So the important bit is have a charitable purpose in your rules. The other bit is you can get charitable tax status without going under the Charity Commission. So that's the key bit, that's the bit Anarakish. But it's the charitable tax status that can be key. The other comment is locally a bingo hall, which is purely for private profit, has got 100% business rate relief. So it's amazing what you can do with relationships.
Wow.
Don't get hung up on the legal structure, but it's a lot easier if you've got the right one. The other quick thing on that is you don't get it first time appeal and let them know you're going to appeal, because local social enterprise, 2 local social enterprises got turned down, and they appealed and they didn't even reach appeal. As soon as the council knew they were appealing, they gave them the 80% discretionary element. Second thing is, if you're a community co-op with the right legal structure, we want more people with that. Joe's happy to do that. Community shares is a way to own a building, and that genuinely locks in community ownership. So if you, after a building, especially one where there's a heritage building or where the community care about it, I'd recommend looking at that. That's the question.
Just to feed back in on that, please can you help us to put something into the handbook about how you get the community share, the community for the land trust, so the groups can get the building for long term, because just having moved around for 30 years, it gets very tiring if you've got to move every year, and we would like to generate funds in the meanwhile these buildings to buy long-term community farms, community centres, whatever it is. So please help us with that. We'll get something in the handbook.
He's the man to talk to.
I'll come and see the man and Joe. Yeah.
We're hoping to launch ours in December, so if anyone wants a good ethical investment, have a chat. The broader question, that something else came into my head but it's gone, is we already exist, we're doing a mix of activities. We wouldn't want to badge ourselves.
You look like you need a light.
I was just sending everyone to sleep. So we do certain things like hot weather, free cold drinks, bands, warm weather, cold weather, doing that. We're doing anti-pollution monitoring, things like that.
Cool.
We wouldn't want to badge ourselves as a climate emergency centre. But is there a way of having a relationship with this network by retaining our own identity that's rooted in our community.
Yes.
And what is that mechanism?
Yeah, so just to explain, I won't really go fully into the presentation, but each centre is autonomous, runs itself how they would like. That's basically, we do ask that some of them, those that choose to, would like to put part of the climate emergency centre network somewhere on their frontage or their social media or whatever to show that they're linked to something bigger. But really, it's just about, can your group align with the three things that you've got a solutions focus, it's local and inclusive, meeting communities, and to be an active part of a wider network. So there are land climate emergency centre groups that have linked up with us, and they just say yes, we're part of this network, and we all help each other. And so if you're setting up a land thing, maybe the nearest city group could link with you, and they could come out a few times a year and do some tree planting, or learn about food growing, or whatever it is. So yes, you can associate with the network and be part of it, and then we all share ideas, resources, and actions. I mean, the cooperative movement is much older and much more organised and much more experienced, and there is a kind of network involved with here that's been around since 1990, the road protest kind of early 90s, kind of running community centres and things, and all of them environmental and green movements since then. But the co-op movement goes back hundreds of years, so we would be very happy to link with you guys, because you've got a body of knowledge and resources and ideas and skills that would take it to another level. So let's associate and help each other in any way we can. All of our communities desperately need space. I mean, we've been meeting diggers and dreamers for years, and the network of co-ops and communities are all over. All of our communities need space in the city, and particularly land, so that we can be more resilient, grow food, plant trees, take action. Sister Abraham?
Yes, on the subject of land, is there any examples within your network of people who have found disused land and gone about something similar, such as like a community garden?
Sorry, just the first bit, is there any other... Sorry.
Any examples within the network of communities who've done similar things with disused land rather than disused buildings?
With it, disused land, with it, I mean, on the climate emergency centre network or before, I mean, depends how far back down you want to go. I mean, there was Land is Ours with George Monbiot and all them when we did Wandsworth Eco Village, 20 acres occupied next to the Thames, which was disused land. The Coop Eco Village, another disused piece of land that was occupied. Runnymede Eco Village, that some was occupied, showing things around the Magna Carta and the rights to land and other things. There are a number of groups that have been doing land occupations over the years, using disused bits of land. There's some land climate emergency centres, not specifically on that. There is, I'll come over to Patrick in a sec, there's a couple of groups that we've linked. One is landexplorer.cc, and they map vacant land and buildings. And there's another group called cultivate.com, some university professor, Daniel Evans, and he came and did a talk, and there's a way to map empty buildings and land. They were using satellites and stuff and then cross-referencing it. And they're rolling that out in Islington, and then they hope if they've got the model they can do it around the country. So we should be able to identify vacant land or disused land and see whether we can use it. And yes, we need to do that.
I was just referencing the Earth First Gathering a couple of months ago was at an abandoned farm in Somerset near Yeovil, and a group of people with permission taken on the abandoned farm, renovating it, starting to grow projects and such like.
It's carried on since the gathering?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
The Earth First Gathering lost its venue like 2-3 weeks before the gathering, and then this place popped up and said, come to us. And it was a pre-existing project that had already taken on some abandoned farmland.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our network has been involved with land occupations over the years, but, we'd like to see as much cooperation as possible when we're talking cooperative and climate solutions here. There are landowners out there with land that they don't have enough time and energy to deal with. There was a beautiful website years ago called landshare.net, and it matched landowners with groups that wanted to grow food. And I think it's defunct slightly now, but the idea basically was very sound, and you could, link up some old people who had 10 acres of land. You could give 5 acres of it to students who grow food, and then give them whatever percentage of the growing stuff. We need to link these things up more, because with the climate change tipping points, there are severe problems coming with our food supply. Debbie mentioned Brexit and other things. There's lots of problems. You know, we've had strawberries rotting in the fields because there's not enough migrating workers, and travellers used to pick a lot of things, and there's lots of issues there with travelling people. And so, how do we become more resilient? We need to find issues, bits of land, and we need to work with landowners and work together to grow food.
Kind of in between city and country, the Bentley Urban Farm in Doncaster has free land from the council. It's urban, but it's like a community garden project. It's pretty sizable, and it's got a lot of groups that come around, a whole range of different activities similar to this community climate emergency centre, similar range of activities take place there. So it's free from the council. They're making good use of the land. They linked up with the Zapatista Journey for Life last year, which visited the UK, all of Europe, and inspired lots of things, made close links with the Land Workers Alliance and that kind of stuff. So there are definitely connections between urban and rural land-based projects, yeah.
Big marching on. So just to finally say, it really is about relationships, and it really is about alliance building a relationship with your local council, with local property owners, with local groups, and getting them to try and cooperate together. Because before all the austerity robbery programme, they made us sell off a lot of our public buildings for the bankers' crisis, and we might have some more austerity coming, but basically every council does have empty buildings, and they also have, some of them have bits of land. Now recently we had a meeting with Sean Berry, who did a Dead Spaces report. They did freedom of information requests to local councils, only the London councils, but they found out of 28 out of 33 London councils that replied, there were 880 council properties empty, and they got the details on some of them, mostly just what they were: schools, community centres, civic halls, scout huts, 67 industrial units, 18 community centres empty. You know, why aren't some of those used by our local communities to be self-funded spaces, to be able to get on with these things? And hopefully they'll find out about more around. There are a few farms. I think Brighton Council is one of the biggest landowners in the country, other councils, and you know. So build a relationship, talk to the regeneration department, talk to the lead of the council, talk to as many groups as you can, and find out where these empty spaces are. And let's get some community action going. Thank you for listening, folks. It's Dominant Solutions. We've got a